Star Trek Discovery, Season 4, Episode 10, The Galactic Barrier. Well, it starts out with a bunch of idiots sitting around a table, and some white-haired guy wearing glasses and spats, and explaining confirmation bias with the universal translators.
Well, that's that guy from earlier this season and last season, right?
Yeah, he's that therapist or whatever that talked to Culber, and before that he talked to, what's her name, Space Hitler. Yeah, I don't even understand why he was leading that meeting, whatever.
I don't get it either.
They introduced some new guy, apparently he's an astrolinguist. I didn't really catch his name, don't think it really matters. And then Michael Burnham is pulled out of the meeting, and she's talking to Stamets, and he's telling her that a new DMA controller has appeared, and it's more powerful and faster than the other one, and that the DMA is going to be jumping to a new location in 12 hours. So that's not good. Not all the delegates are there to get on board to go to first contact, and the Discovery has 2 hours before they're leaving, and the crew members all have to go say their goodbyes. So, of course, there's a bunch of feelings, and it was stupid because since when have you been able to say your goodbyes when you're going on an important mission? I just don't even understand at this point.
Well, I mean, I guess the goodbye, it seems like they're going on a mission every week. So what, do they say goodbyes? They go off on their mission, they come back. To me, I realized this was a different one because they're going past the Galactic Barrier. So this is possibly a one-way mission type situation. But yeah, it's the same thing where they're just given more excuses to go around, have some emotions, do some hugging. Saru and that Navar, whatever the hell that place is called.
Navar.
He was trying to ask her out on kind of a date, and she, I guess, turned him down. I don't know what the hell that was about.
Alright, well, before that, the president of the Federation, she transferred power to the vice president because she was going to go on the mission, because apparently she was a top ambassador for the Federation for 20 years.
Do you know who that reminds me of, though? Remember Dr. Weir from SG-1 and later Atlantis?
Yes.
That was her background, too. She was some great negotiator.
Exactly. So the Federation was in shambles before Michael Burnham showed up with her spore drive.
Yep.
So how good of an ambassador could this lady have been if things were all screwed up before Michael Burnham got there?
Yeah, because that Emerald Chain, I think that's the name of that group.
Yeah.
They were running things like the Mafia. And it's okay.
Yeah, so I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. And this is funny. Since we are in the middle of a very unpleasant relocation, the old man and I are staying with my mom and my sister. So they consented to watching this episode of Star Trek Discovery with us. And in the previous recording of our review of the previous episode, I had commented that Nan's eye makeup was incredibly distracting because it just didn't seem appropriate for somebody to be wearing on a starship going into what is probable battle. And the president of the Federation today, in the episode we just watched, she was wearing similar eyeshadow to what I was complaining about last week, to which my sister pointed out rather astutely that it was a sparkly copper color. I guess she called it metallic copper, and that it actually matched the orange color in the Admiral's uniform. And then when I looked more closely, I realized that this was just some of the teal and orange that you find as the two most prevalent colors on Star Trek Discovery. Previously, I had failed to notice that even the eyeshadow was falling into this teal-orange nonsense, but it took my little sister to point this out to me. So credit to my sister for pointing out this obvious, horrible makeup choice. I don't even know what to say beyond that, but there you go. So anyway, after we unpaused from looking at eyeshadow, the Admiral states that apparently no one has ever been beyond the Galactic Barrier. Later in the episode, one of the crew members on Discovery said that they were seeing something that very few people had ever seen. And that was just very contradictory to me, because we know that people actually have been beyond the barrier. Yes, very few of them, but it's not zero.
Yeah, I mean, in the original series, they had the one with Gary Mitchell, where they tried to go through the Galactic Barrier and gained ESP powers, extrasensory powers. And then there was the one episode of the original series where I think there were people from the Andromeda Galaxy. They were the ones that were turning the crew people into, powdery ball like sponges and you crush. And so they came from outside the galaxy. And then if I remember in the Next Generation, there was with the Traveler, they went outside the galaxy.
Yep.
It seems like there were occasions where either they pushed up against it or they did go past it. I'm not going to hold it against them that they said something like very few people have been here, because that's probably still as true in mythos.
Oh, yes, but the Admiral said that no one had ever been there. So that was clearly an error.
And that's just what I'm remembering. I mean, I remember the 2 original series and that Next Generation episode with the Traveler.
Mm-hmm.
There could be other ones that I'm not remembering from the other series, so I'm certainly not going to... I'm not going to claim that that was the entirety of extra galactic travel. But.
Yeah, but it had been done. Tarka and Book. When we come upon them, Book is trying to kick Tarka off of his ship, and he actually told Tarka that he was an asshole.
He actually used that word.
Yes, he actually called him an asshole. I was very proud. It was about time somebody was called an asshole on this show.
Well, it's funny because the last review we did, you claimed, well, this problem shouldn't even be a problem if those 2 assholes would have been grabbed at the casino. So I thought it was funny that specific term was used for one of them by the other one calling him that.
Well, see, I was right. Even Book recognized that Tarka was an asshole. Tarka asks Book how he thinks he's going to get past the galactic barrier, because that's where Book is going now. Book, of course, has no idea. So Tarka informs him that he's going to need this programmable antimatter to apply to his hull so he can get through the barrier.
For me, like, as soon as I heard that, because if we remember, and again, if I'm wrong, somebody comment and let me know, but that programmable matter, just plain matter, that's that clay stuff that they introduced in the, I think it was last season with the Emerald Chain. It's that kind of metallic looking stuff that they use.
I think they had it on Picard as well.
Did they? Oh, yeah. Well,
because it's more like magic clay than anything else. It was ridiculous.
Right. And now they need programmable antimatter, because not only was put Book in Ehrenreich wanted to put it around his ship, but then you see a scene after they talk about this where those stupid little bots are on Discovery and they're spraying the ship. It looks like they're spraying it copper or something, and it turns out they're putting programmable antimatter on there too, because somehow that's the magic formula to get them through the galactic barrier.
And of course, Tarka tells Book that he has a stash of this stuff, so they're gonna have to go get it. So, oakley dokley. So then we next see Saru, and he's saying goodbye to one of those pilots that was arguing in front of him in the shuttle last week. And apparently this guy's gonna be doing some research, so I don't know if he's a pilot or a researcher or what the hell he really is, but apparently he wasn't going on this mission. And really that was just a plot device to have Saru standing there when the president of Navarre shows up. He, of course, goes up to her and he's telling her how,
date with her.
Yeah, because maybe what they could have might be more than a friendship, and that Discovery might not be coming back from beyond the galactic barrier. And of course, before she has a chance to answer, another Navarran Vulcan, Romulan, whatever, shows up and she gets called away, so she isn't able to answer him. So, of course, poor Saru is standing there like, well, was that a yes or a no?
This, to me, felt like high school stuff in the hallway, because throughout the episode, I'm not going to ruin anything you're going to give out here, but there were these incidents with Saru and this lady, and it just felt like it was from some high school drama or something.
Well, funny you should say that, because next we see Adira and Michael Burnham and Stamets in the hallway. And of course, Stamets, oh, you're doing great, to Adira and all this other crap. And it just, it's the validation of feelings show. And it seems very high school. And it's funny because my mom is sitting there watching this with us, and she said, it seems like a teenager wrote this. Yeah, I mean, I don't dispute that. I mean, it seems like it was written for teenagers. That's the emotional level that seems to be the sophistication level of the storytelling on this show. But again, it comes back around to this show would not have been appropriate in that first season to show to anyone who is probably under the age of 16.
I would argue anyone, period.
Or even under 18 in some instances.
Anyone, period. Nobody should watch that.
Yeah, but I mean, the point is like with the severed baby heads and the rapey stuff and all that horrible stuff from the first season, you couldn't show that to a teenager or a middle schooler.
Yeah, I think technically the baby hit was season 2.
All right, well, whatever, but still.
But the rapey stuff was season 1,
yeah.
So that's always nice.
Yeah, so I mean, this show, you wouldn't have been able to show this to the age group they're targeting now. So what are they doing?
On our video, somebody commented about, they were looking up IMDb statistics.
Yes, thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. This person pointed out, for the original series, the rating was like at an 8, which is pretty good. But for Discovery, for young people, it was at like a 5.
It was a 5.
And that made me feel better. But
yeah.
Again, if the young people are rejecting this garbage, who is watching this stuff? Who is it made for?
I don't know. Because again, it comes back around to, where's the money coming from to make this thing? Who is this being made for, and why? There are a lot of questions about this show that it's impossible to answer because it's behind the paywall on a streaming service, and they don't have to give us their numbers as far as who's actually watching this show, how many people are actually watching this show. We don't know. There's no advertisers because there's no commercials on the stupid thing, so we really don't see who's supporting this shit.
Usually on terrestrial television or even cable, you can use what sort of commercials they're advertising to kind of guess at who they're targeting.
Yeah.
But since this doesn't have commercials, you're not able to gauge that.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, and you'll get into this story here in a little bit, there were 2 major plot lines going on here. The one that you're into now is the normal Discovery stupidity aimed at middle school, high school people. There's this other storyline that had to do with Book and Ehrenreich that actually I could see what they were trying to do. I mean, I don't think they quite pulled it off, but they were trying to actually develop Ehrenreich's character. I mean, Tarka, is that his name in this?
Yeah, Tarka.
Like, they were actually trying, and I give them credit for at least trying. That's the first time I've seen all season where it felt like, even though I don't think they pulled it off, they tried to actually do real storytelling to develop a character.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that in a minute.
Yep.
So let's get through this other crap first. So anyway, the president is going on this stupid mission. Of course, Michael Burnham is telling her, I can't have you questioning my orders because it's introducing doubt amongst the crew and that's dangerous. The president tells Michael Burnham that, her xenoanthropological expertise is going to be invaluable, and basically they're drawing lines as to who's in charge of what, so they don't step on each other's toes.
She said, but I'm in control of the diplomatic part of this, and you're in control of the I guess, the tactical mission.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, oh god, alrighty then.
Well, they were trying to set up some weird conflict between these two, which
it was laughable.
They introduced at the beginning of this season, but they never did anything with it, because then the president just started basically praising Michael Burnham as the greatest thing ever. She had that one episode, the very first episode, where the president was questioning Michael Burnham's decisions, which finally somebody in the that universe was doing that.
Yeah.
And then after that, she just started going, oh no, Michael Burnham's the greatest. But that's all they were doing here, was trying to set up some conflict between these two. That's how, when they introduced that type of weird conversation between them, delineating their roles. I mean, I know it sounds like that makes sense, but the way it was done was just, it was
weird. It came off as really cringy because that's not how humans talk to each other.
No, I mean, I was expecting Michael Burnham to say, look, I do what I want.
Yeah.
And you can say you're doing whatever, but I'm going to do what I want, and if I don't like it, I'll kill you. And I won't get in trouble for it because I can get away with anything I want.
So after that weird little exchange, Michael Burnham's on bridge, and she's telling the crew how, they've all dreamed of going where no one has gone before. So now they're near the Galactic Barrier, and of course Saru's in the hallway or whatever, and he runs into the president of Navarre because apparently their delegate couldn't get there in time, so she had to go. And so that was super awkward.
And they treated it just like
high school.
It's some high school drama, like we're watching a high school drama with a boy who has a crush on a girl, and there's some teen angsty stuff going on. That's exactly how they treated this, and it was embarrassing.
Yeah, because Culber was there, and so then after that, he and Saru were talking, and Culber starts telling Saru about how he felt like things weren't going well when he first met Stamets, and who is his husband, by the way, in case you didn't know. It's like, am I watching 90210, or am I watching Star Trek? Which one is it? Because this is all happening in the middle of a very serious mission. So it's weird that they're sharing their feelings in the middle of all of this stuff that is extremely important, yet they are treating it like it's just this thing that's going on while they're talking about their feelings.
Yep.
It's really, it's like it's inverted.
As I said, this story, the thing you're describing now, there was only one writer on this episode. Well, one listed. Mm-hmm. But it felt like there were two writers, because the stuff you've described so far was the normal, what's been happening all season, written for high school level people.
Yep.
And then the second story you're going to get to here in a little bit, it seems like it was written by somebody else. I mean, they didn't quite pull it off, but it was written for a higher level than a 12-year-old.
Oh, yeah, because now we're actually going to get to the part that actually wasn't bad. In fact, there was so much potential there, and it's a shame that the entire series wasn't this.
I don't think they quite got it right, because
it was close, though.
It was the closest
very close.
I've seen. It reminded me that episode, was it To Connect? Is that the one that had the prisoner that sacrificed himself on that colony that was being evacuated?
I don't remember the name of that one, but yes, I recall.
Well, whatever that episode was, I thought it was To Connect, but maybe I'm getting the episode names. But like that performance from that one prisoner,
yes,
I thought was like a highlight. It's just too bad that
it was on that show.
It was on that show, and he didn't get much to work with. On this one, it's a little bit different, because the one you're going to explain it here in a little bit. The actor that they had, the character that Aaron Wright was talking about or showing, I mean, I don't want to ruin too much till you get into it.
Well, here, just let me talk about it then.
Okay.
So anyway, so we're back to Book and Tarka, and they're on this planet looking for Tarka's secret stash of programmable antimatter. Book freaks out because he figures out that this planet used to be an Emerald Chain work camp, and of course we know Book had been in one of those. Well, it turns out Tarka had been in one too. It's an abandoned Emerald Chain work camp, and that's where Tarka was held. They have flashbacks that show us exactly what it was like for Tarka on this planet, and so we finally find out who he is trying to get to another galaxy to be with. It was interesting because they actually were able in, their allotted time in one episode to establish a relationship that was deeper than any of the relationships they've managed to establish on this show in 4 frickin' seasons.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it still could have used a little bit of work. But again, this is still Star Trek Discovery, so, you gotta do what you gotta do.
I mean, the pieces I didn't like, and I'll just be real general, they spent too much time just spewing this math out there, just to show people, they're really smart. I mean, they didn't need to do that, all these math things, and they were drawing like pi and that on the walls or whatever. Like, they didn't need to do that. And then the actor who was playing the companion that he was with,
Oros,
I'm not blaming necessarily the actor, but it just seemed like there was something there that didn't quite click for me, but I'm going to say they were trying really hard to do something here. And I give them an 8 out of 10 for succeeding. They didn't quite get there, but it was really close. I mean, those pieces that had Aaron Wright in the flashbacks, the clock actually, I stopped looking at the clock going, well, geez, is it over with yet? Is it over with yet? Just by saying that means at least I was engaged a little bit with that storyline.
Yeah, I'm just going to go through and finish that storyline out, and then I'll go back to the crap that's happening on Discovery. We see the relationship that is building between Tarka and Oros is telling him that he can build an interuniversal transporter, basically. And he tells Tarka about this alternate universe that his people apparently refer to as Kylise, which means home. And it's supposed to be this paradise that's just this fantastic place and very peaceful, and that's where Oros is trying to go. And he asks Tarka if he wants to go with him, telling him that he's never had a real friend before. One of the alarms went off while they were in their lab, and Oros freaked out because his previous work partner, when the siren had gone off, his head exploded. So he's got some PTSD left over for that. So when the siren rang this time, Tarka was comforting him and helping him to get through it. And after the episode that Oros had was over, he tells Tarka that you didn't have to do that. And Tarka is like, well, I never really had a real friend before. The two of them decide that they're going to try to escape by using this universal transporter. And unfortunately, before they became friends, it turns out that Tarka had reported Oros for what he was doing. So when they're trying to use their transporter, the thing fails, the soldiers burst in, and Tarka kills one of them. And I think he must have shot the other one as well, because then he and Oros are, Tarka shot the bomb thing in the back of his head and pulled it out, which was an interesting scene. He seems to have more balls than most of the people on that show. Again, it's a waste of a character in a shit show, unfortunately, because I think they could have done a lot with him.
Him and Book are the most interesting characters this season.
Yeah, so anyways, he shoots himself in the back of the neck, right in the bomb, and then he pulls the disabled bomb out, which looked very painful. And then he did the same thing for Oros, and he's trying to carry Oros out of there because the soldiers had kicked the crap out of him, and he's like laying on the floor, and Oros tells him to just go, basically save yourself. So Tarka promises that he'll come back for him. Unfortunately, though, it was a few weeks later, and the base had been evacuated, and when Tarka gets there, Oros is no longer there, and he's been searching for him ever since, and he can't find any evidence of him alive or dead. So his hope is that he actually managed to make the transporter work, and that he's waiting for him in that other universe. So that's why Tarka is doing everything that he's done, to try to get enough power for the transporter that he has now built, so that he can get to his friend.
And the acting between, because they kept cutting back and forth between the stupidity of that galactic barrier breaching by Michael Burnham and the president, and in this storyline, it was such a stark difference when you went from the stupidity to this story. It was like somebody was flipping a switch, because it was night and day the way the music was, the performances were. It was like two different episodes. Because both Book and Aaron Wright, because Book was there when he was listening and asking questions about the flashback, it was actually pretty well done. If they had better writers, because I don't think this person who wrote this was quite got it right, but if they had better writers, you could see with these same actors what they could accomplish.
Well, as a writer on a show like that, because I don't know that she'd written any other episodes, I don't know, I'd have to go back and look. But, I mean, when you're handed characters and storylines, there's only so much you can do, because it has to fit in with the rest of the storyline, the arc for the season.
But the other storyline was just as stupid as it always had been.
Yeah.
So that's why it makes me wonder if somebody else was writing that, and then this writer who wrote this episode, if she spent most of her time writing the Tarka book
stuff.
Yeah, because that was actually, that was close to good. I'm not going to give it credit and say it was good, but at least it was close to good.
Yeah, it was so much better. It was tolerable.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of potential there. I think probably, at least this is my assumption, that the Discovery Michael Burnham Saru crap probably was handed to her, at least an outline of what had to happen, if not just written, like you said, by somebody else. And she probably got more reign on what she could do with the Tarka stuff, because that hadn't been established before. That was new information that had only been hinted at in the past. So she probably had a freer outline to work with, as far as how she was going to flesh that out.
Because stuff actually, like, you found out that scar on the back of his neck, what that was about, Tarka, Aaron Wright.
Yeah.
This is something Discovery normally doesn't do. There was like a payoff to something they set up earlier.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, I can't give credit and say this was good, that storyline, but it was really close. I mean, this is the closest we've seen. I mean, like I said earlier, the episode with the prisoner that was on the planet, that was a much, 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 much smaller segment that I said, oh, that his performance was pretty good. I wish they would have done more with it. This was throughout the story. I mean, this if I edited out the stupidity of the Galactic Barrier storyline, I think this storyline would last like 15 or 20 minutes. So, I mean, it was quite extended, and it was okay for Discovery. I would say it was okay.
Well, if I recall correctly, the last name of the writer was Saunders, and I do believe she previously did some writing for Battlestar Galactica. Mm-hmm. So I think, number one, that shows she's been around for a while. Number two, Galactica, it had its problems, but for the most part, the writing wasn't bad. Stories made sense. I could form some complaints about the series. I don't think that's an individual writer's fault. I think that's more of
high-level direction of where it was going.
Yes, show running. So, I found it interesting. So obviously she was an older writer who had a lot of experience writing in the science fiction genre. So I wonder if she's written any other Discovery episodes. I'll have to go back and look because... I
would be surprised if she did.
Yeah, me too. So anyways, unless you had anything else to say about that, I'll just get back to the shit show. They're at the edge of the galaxy, and of course the barrier is all teal and orange. Apparently there's something wrong with something, so the shields won't hold as long as they thought, so they're gonna have to ride in these spatial cells, which is bizarre, but whatever. And so they do that. Obviously... eventually they'll get to where they're going because that's how it always is.
Yeah, she's speeding through this because the
stupid.
other storyline was so stupid.
Yeah.
That's why I'm glad she took her time talking about the Book and Tarka storyline.
Yeah.
But yeah, just go ahead and just whiz through this because the rest of this was stupid.
So anyway, right before they got through the barrier, they got a message from the Admiral, and it was classified, so Michael Burnham and the President had to go into Michael Burnham's ready room to listen to the stupid thing. And of course the DMA has moved, it's now in the Alpha Quadrant, and it's threatening Navarre and Earth, and debris is going to hit the planets in the next few days. And of course Michael Burnham wants to tell the crew, but the President says no, and... then they're trying to move through this stupid, what looks like big bubbles of shit.
You pointed out watching this with me. If you remember this, I don't want to take credit from Molly because Molly actually brought this up.
If you've seen the Orville and you remember the antimatter episode,
Dark Matter.
Sorry, yes. This is the antimatter. No, if you remember the Dark Matter episode,
with the lady from the future that came back and formed a relationship with Mercer.
Yes,
but
the big bubbles of dark matter.
The visuals were very, very similar to what was going on here.
Yeah, so apparently the visuals to rip off this week were from the Orville. So, eventually they get through and, Michael Burnham has talked the President into telling the crew that the DMA has moved and it's threatening Earth and Navarre. The President does make the announcement, and then,
Michael Burnham allows her to make the announcement, and she explains later, and you can go ahead when you get to it and explain why, because Michael Burnham explained why she allowed the President to give that speech.
Because in times of crisis, let's just say the leader shouldn't look shook, and she should seem secure, and show that there is a plan, and a sense of security, and then she says, "You're my President, too!" And, oh God, it was so awful.
And when we were watching this, was it your sister? I think it was your sister. She said, "Oh my gosh, she's going to tell the President how to do her job too." And we both laughed because it's we said, yeah, Michael Burnham tells everybody how to do their job.
And then, of course, if you can't communicate with each other, then what chance do you have of communicating with Species 10C? And, we have to succeed, we have to. And it's just ugh. And even before that, there was down in engineering, Stamets and Adira talking to each other while all this shit is going on, they're trying to get through these stupid spatial bubble things, and they have time to talk to each other about, I support you, and I always will, because my daddy didn't support me. This is Stamets telling this to Adira. So, it was, again, another one of those instances where it felt like it was an inverted show, where they're talking more about their personal feelings, their issues, their baggage from the past, while this important stuff is going on around them. It's really, really weird. The more important thing should be your duty at that moment, getting through this spatial crap, through the galactic barrier, but instead they have time to stand there and just talk about their personal emotional problems from their daddy 20 years ago. It's really bizarre.
What I noticed in addition to that, when they were doing their mission, and I said this earlier this season, Michael Burnham in this episode several times was calling down to engineering and talking to Stamets. And the way that they were jokingly bantering back and forth, it's this is a serious... It'd be like if Kirk was going, talking to Scotty and they were both making jokes as the ship was getting shaken apart. That's what was going on here. There was more of this attempted comedic banter when Michael Burnham's trying to say, look, we need this, and they're just joking back and forth, up and down, like it's no big deal.
Yeah, I mean, where's your sense of urgency? I don't even know what to say about that. That was weird. Which again brings me back around to, I just don't feel like that part was written by the same person who did writing on Battlestar Galactica. Like you were saying, was this episode actually written by two different people?
Yeah. I mean,
and there was just writing credit for one.
Because I think that Ann Saunders, I think that was her name.
Yeah.
I think she wrote the Tarka and Book stuff. And then that actually, because it felt different, like I said. The way the dialogue was between them, it was slower pace. They weren't doing that quippy Gilmore Girls type quippy stuff. They were actually talking like people would talk.
Yeah.
And the music was different. Even the way it was shot was a bit different. I mean, It just felt like it was very removed from the rest of the garbage that was dealing on the Discovery with Michael Burnham.
Well, it felt like it was written for a more mature audience than the middle school, I support you, validating your feelings crap.
Yeah, I mean,
Although, I will admit that Book did tell Tarka that he shouldn't blame himself, and there was some, of that feelings crap with them too.
Yep.
But it wasn't nearly as in-your-face, over-the-top as...
That's why I said I couldn't quite give this good.
Yeah.
But it was close to good. I mean, it really... If somebody got a hold of this for free, I would say fast forward to the parts with Book and Tarka, because it was easily the best scenes of the season.
Yes,
maybe
definitely.
for the past couple of seasons.
Well, yeah, I mean, that, and like you said, that other episode where they had that prisoner who clearly could outact everybody else on the show at that point in time. And it's a shame because you see these flashes of what could have been, but that's not what this show was, and I don't know why.
I don't know who has a stranglehold on this franchise.
Yeah.
Even with all the rewriting of continuity, I mean, I'm not saying I'm happy about that, but I can kind of just imagine this as in a separate universe.
Yeah, even if you're able to overlook that.
It's written so stupidly.
Yeah.
I can't enjoy Star Trek Discovery. This was the closest I got to enjoying this in quite a while.
Yeah.
And it was back and forth. Like I was starting to relax and get into the story, and then they go back to the Discovery and Michael Burnham, and it made my gut all tensed up, and it got all horrible.
Yeah, so I mean, if you are going to watch this episode, skip through the Discovery parts and just watch Tarka and Book, because that's the only parts worth watching.
Yep.
So that's it from us. Thanks for listening to us. We'll try to do next week's on time.
Yeah, we realize we've been behind, but with our relocation, we've been behind a bit. So we want to make sure to get this one up on time so that we can try to reset our clocks. So hopefully our stuff will be on time from this point forward.
Yes, so we will do our best to have this out on time next week as well. And as always, we really appreciate all of the comments. We're going to try to get better at answering those on time as well. And hopefully in a month or so, when everything's calm, our channel hopefully will be more stable.
Yeah, we have lots of ideas. We do want to finish up Discovery. We want to take on Picard. When the Orville starts, we want to go on that. We've got a few other ideas. Molly has her Doctor Who New Year's special video.
Oh my God, I'm still working on that.
We've got lots of ideas, and there's other stuff that we're still thinking on. So we've got lots of ideas. We just need some time and a permanent location to start getting the stuff together. So it should get better over the next month, but we're going to try to reset our clocks now, so at least this Discovery stuff gets out on time.
Exactly.
So again, make sure to like, subscribe, and
comment. Yep. And as always, thank you so much for listening.
Take care.